There's a house where we found to have a toilet inside the kitchen. I don't think you study to become a politician.
Yeah.
You know, you study politics because you want to know more about it.
Do you think that maybe somewhere along the lines I went to PGC and then jump into teaching?
If you happen to be a student leader doing a 4-year program and you graduate after 7 years, it's got nothing to do with politics necessarily. It's got to do, with you. Are you fit academically? Is your course rocking you? Are you coping with your course? I don't think it's got anything to do with politics, unless of course you can't manage your time properly. Then you are, giving your political commitments more time than your academics.
You are watching the EduKnowledge Exchange podcast show, the place where we share, learn and engage with students, graduates and experts on their academic journeys. From personal challenges to inspiring success stories, we uncover the real experiences behind university and college life. Have you ever wondered what truly goes on in the minds of students and graduates? The struggles, the breakthroughs, the game-changing tips that can transform your academic journey? We bring you raw experiences, expert advice, and unfiltered conversations to help you navigate university life like a pro. Hit that subscribe button and let's dive into the ultimate knowledge exchange.
Welcome back to another episode of EduKnowledge Exchange. Today we have a wonderful guest, Osolim Dingi, who is a student activist and a BA student doing his 3rd year. Mola Solujan.
I'm well, sis, and yourself?
I always just want to say I want to dive right deep into the person that you are, right? Mm-hmm. So just give me a brief overview of who Usoli was in primary and high school. What kind of a child were you? Were you seen as a troublesome child, quiet, reserved? Just give me an overview of what kind of a child you were.
Well, firstly, let me just thank you, Lilo, for featuring me on this podcast. It's an honor for me to be here. Usoli, firstly, was born and bred in Mdantsane, the second biggest township in the country, from the home of legends. I've gone to primary and high school, senior primary and high school in Mdantsane. Mm-hmm. In primary, I think you can tell I'm an extrovert, or at least that's what people think. I was very, very forward. I was hyperactive in primary and high school as well. I remember there was this one time, I think I was doing grade 5. I was doing grade 7, 2014, yes. Yes, I'm exposing my age now. I was doing grade 7, 2014, when my mother was invited to a meeting with the teachers. By the teachers. They say, hey, no, we recommend that your son sees a psychologist. He's too hyper. He's too hyper. And I was very young even for that class. Your son is too hyper, man, and we doubt that if he continues without having seen a psychologist, he's going to make it, in high school and beyond. My mother just told them what to get off, because she's as much of an extrovert as I am. Told them what to get off, asked if they were psychologists themselves. How could they diagnose that I would need to see a psychologist? And I've never seen one subsequently to that, and I'm still here. I was a public speaker since senior primary, high school. I was involved in public speaking, debate, I've been a very outgoing person, very extroverted.
With what you're saying, right, with your teachers saying, Mana, you should go and see a psychologist, and your mother asking them whether or not they are psychologists themselves. As someone who's doing education, right, because, we're told, Mana, you could never diagnose a child, but you could always recommend them for them to go and see a psychologist. But then what I've been seeing in the past years is that a lot of teachers are always diagnosing kids with ADHD specifically, saying, "Mana, it's some sort of learning disability, and that kids would fail and all of that." But now, Usoli is this hyperactive, extroverted kid in class. Is he passing well? Is he just someone who's not passing but is disturbing the class at the same time? How are your grades looking like at this time?
Well, like I said, I was the youngest in all my classes since grade 1. When I was doing grade 1, I was supposed to be
Doing grade R.
Yeah, I was supposed to be in preschool.
Oh, okay.
So grade 1 to grade 12. You know, I mean, I was performing I would say averagely. I wasn't smart.
Yeah.
I did not do well in my matric in 2019. I then redid matric in 2022, and then in 2023 I came to the University of the Western Cape. So I redid my matric because I have a challenge with numbers generally.
Yeah.
You know, so maths and science troubled me in 2019.
And you're doing them at school.
Yeah, it was peer pressure because in 2017, most when I was doing grade 10, you know, I'm seeing here, hey, my friends are going to
Maths and
10A
physics.
because you would see, almost in township schools, 10A is maths and science, 10B is commerce, and then 10C up
It's
to
just
12C. It's those naughty kids, that's history, that's maths lit, you know, agriculture, you know, geography. So I was like, I'm not going there. You know, I'm not going there. So I went to 10A because of peer pressure. It showed me flames. And as a result, in 2019, I did not do well because of maths and physics. So then in 2022, when I went back to the desk, I changed physics. I substituted it with economics. So I was doing economics for the first time in 2022. And surprisingly, I was the only person who got a distinction in economics.
That's really
Xhosa, home language, and English first additional as well.
That is great.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is great. So, growing up in the township, as you said, U8A is that class that is known as the smartest, and teachers would automatically assume, not even teachers, parents would assume that those kids are the ones that are going to be doctors, lawyers, policemen, and all of these, you know, established people in life, rather. When in high school, what did you want to be?
Yeah, I wanted to be a lot of things.
Take us through all of these things.
You know, at some stage, I wanted to be, I think 2015-16, grade 8, grade 9.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a quantity surveyor, for instance. I wanted to work for Anglo-American. Because there's a lady in my street born by a teacher, it was Vovo or something. I think her name is Vovo. She works with mines, you know. So Mama would say, you know, Vovo, well established. You know? So I conducted my research and I said, hey, you know, there's a lot of money in this thing. Wanted to be a quantity surveyor. Maths said,
You're not doing that.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
I then changed, you know, because of how outspoken I am. It's like, no, man, I should venture into law. You know, I want law. Mathematics again said, no, we're not doing that. You know, I also wanted to be a teacher. A part of me still wants to be a teacher because I'm passionate, you know, about education. You know, in school, you know, when the teacher would not be there, say they are having staff meetings or whatever, or there's no teacher, is absent, I would just stand in front of the class. You know, I used to understand English and you know, in 2022, of course, economics and life sciences here and there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would teach, more especially English and economics. I would teach and people would understand, you know. So I mean, well, I wanted to be a teacher. A part of me still wants to be a teacher.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, people are saying, hey, man, you know, you should focus on politics. I'm saying to them, politics is not a career. You can't make politics a career because, you know, the problem now, this is passion. You know, it's staying true to your truth. You know, it's fighting for what you believe in. you believe in. You're not
Yeah.
doing it because you're an opportunistic person. You are seeking employment, you know. By the way, being deployed to parliament is not employment, it's deployment. You can wake up tomorrow and you're not an
So,
MP.
yes.
So you don't rely on politics as your source of income. You know, you rely on politics to fight for what is right, you know. We ought to perceive politics as an instrument which ought to be utilized as a driver of change, you know, in society, you know. So yeah, I mean, I could work, you know, for the government, say, be a political analyst because I'm a political person generally, but to say that, hey, you know, I'm looking at deployment or whatever, you know, no. We don't enter this thing for employment.
I like that you said that, because you find that, and this is the reason why we speak about these things, right? Because you find that someone will say, no, I want to be a politician. Jake Martina, we come out and say, I want to be a teacher, I want to be this. Will straight up come out to you and say, I want to be a politician. They don't know politics. They don't know what they themselves stand for, you know. But then will be like, and I'm not speaking about people who are informed, people who are in private schools and were informed about all of these things. I'm speaking about someone also Lokshini, right? Who doesn't necessarily know what politics are, but always sees your Ramaphosas as billionaires and all of these people with a lot of money, and then they think that they get all of this money from politics, basically. So I like the fact that you just clarified that, for one. But now, Usoli passes matric, and he is in the institution of the university. You're in the University of the Western Cape, right? During your first year, how do you adjust from high school to university?
Well, thanks for that question, Lilo. I forgot to say, in 2020, you know, I was involved as well in community struggles because I was improving my matric results, you know, before I went back to the desk in 2022. So there was, I come from the Buffalo City Metro, you know. Our water was polluted. It was infested with algae, you know. So we complained. I wrote an open letter to the mayor to complain about it. Had an exchange even with the city manager in writing and whatever. It was covered, and by the media, and I had the backing of the community as well. And then in 2021, I went to College of Cape Town. I was at City Campus. Now, you see, I did not perform well in matric. I mean, and I was like, no, man. Even my family was like, no, you have a lot of potential. We don't think you belong here. You know, you must just come back. You know, now I'm thinking to myself, I've made it out of the township, number one.
Now you need to go
I'm
back.
in Cape Town. I need to go back. And my mom was, I'm raised by a single parent who's struggling to make ends meet, but is doing everything she can to make me the person I am today. You know, so I'm like, hey, no, I have to be considerate. You know, I have to be considerate. You know, you look at your situation back home and you're like, no, okay, let me just do what my mother is asking me to do. And she was supportive in 2022. Now, when I came back from College of Cape Town in 2021, was supportive. I mean, throughout my matric, my second matric now. Hence, I think that's why I did well. That's partly, mostly why rather I did well. So I would say the transition now from let's start with the transition from tertiary, from TVET to high school. I remember the first week. Going back to school, I'm in uniform again, you know. So you check from 2019 to 2022. That's a lot of years. You know. So I was ashamed, man. Almost like, I'll walk you to the taxi stop. Masam, no one is going to do anything to you, Masam.
Man.
You know, I was a bit embarrassed because I was thinking, hey, what are people going to say? But my mother told me, people will never do anything for you. That what are people going to say mentality must just, you know, must part ways with you, because there's nothing people are going to do for you. When you are doing well, They're going
They'll
to
still
talk.
speak.
When you are not doing well, they will still talk.
Yeah.
So you must just do what makes you happy and what is best for you. And indeed, I performed well. So the transition was not so smooth, but with time, it was better. And then, of course, from high school to what's this thing,
university.
to university, I know it was seamless because I was familiar with the
Tertiary
higher
education.
education sector. Yeah. So it was seamless. I got here, and within a month, I was already involved in student politics. Because even at the College of Cape Town, I was
Yeah.
involved. You see, we were in the SRC there, and at some stage I was the acting SRC president that side. So when I transitioned to varsity,
It was all natural, basically.
yeah, it was natural.
It was natural.
It was seamless.
Now this is, I've never been in communication with someone who's been in a TVET college and asked them about the political structures in there. So I just want to know, are the political structures in TVET colleges the same as the ones that you find in universities?
Yes. So you see, for instance, there's the Economic Freedom Fighters Students Command, which is now known as the Economic Freedom Fighters Youth Command.
Yeah.
It exists in all institutions of higher learning. There's SASCO, there's, now
BASMA.
Kondowesizwe, there's BASMA as well. But what is unique about College of Cape Town is that these structures, the constitution there, it does not, well, it does allow for the recognition of structures, insofar as affiliation is concerned, but there were no affiliated structures at the time in College of Cape Town, and in such a short space of time, it was almost impossible, to do everything at once, to affiliate and do whatever. But so you would run as independents, but you know which party you're coming from.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, I
yeah.
see,
So
I
it's
see.
like that. Yeah.
Just for interest sake, what course were you doing at the
College of
Cape Town? Sorry.
I took, because I wanted to be in tertiary, and the only available thing to do there was tourism. You see, so I took tourism, and I got, even my lecturers were saying, "Hey, Chief, you don't belong here.
That's where you leave.
You must leave. You must go to varsity." You see, I just desperately wanted to be out of the township, because the township is designed in a very oppressive way, particularly to the black child. Such that it's an achievement to make it out of the township itself. When you study, I know people who have done well in their matric, but unfortunately could not make it to varsity, could not get university acceptance, could not apply. And you see them years down the line, what the township has done to them. Facing the realities of the township, some that I went to school with who performed very well are now addicted to drugs. Some are parents now. It's not something that is good to witness. It's not something that is great to witness. So everyone strives to make it out of the township, because if you don't, it will consume you, and is a ginya. So everyone tries desperately to make it out of the township, because there are limited opportunities for black children.
Yeah, true.
Very limited opportunities, and what is available in abundance are drugs, alcohol, And of course, look, I don't think people resort to alcoholism, to substance abuse, to drug abuse, because they want to, because it's fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are depressed, but it does take an emotional and a psychological toll on you not to be accepted in varsity. More especially when you've worked very hard.
Yeah.
You can't not be depressed. And the only antidepressant that seems that is appealing
that is available.
to you, yeah, let alone available, because medical antidepressants are available, but the only one that seems fashionable, that can numb the pain instantly, is alcohol. Drugs, you look at the crime statistics of the township. You'd get robbed by someone who's almost your age, who's a bit older than you, who's even younger than you. What could that person be doing? Find out that person has matric, And also, there's no guarantee, even after you've graduated, there's no guarantee of employment. You see people standing and asking for money, Yet that person is a graduate. Some are even appealing for jobs. And all these social ills have been meticulously engineered by the oppressor during the apartheid era. You look at how the townships were designed. There were places to dump us, black people, to marginalize us, to make sure that we're isolated from the
From where the
center.
opportunities are, the CBDs and all of these places.
Exactly. So you look at how townships really are shaped. It's not a favorable place. Unfortunately, you have no choice because you are born there. Otherwise, there is no one who longs to live in a township. There's no one who says, even yourself, you have a dream of perhaps of getting married, of living in suburbs and whatnot.
Yeah.
You don't say, hey, now my dream is to buy a house in Mtanzania. Sometimes it's not by choice,
Yeah.
So really, that's just my take on.
So what you're saying, right, has got me thinking in terms of, when uselokishini, let's say nakona, not even in a township where you grew up, but in a township where you have family. Let's say, for example, you've got family eKhayelitsha, and you're walking around with your uncle. And then your uncle will show you like, Yambona lamchita. He was once this and that and this and that and this. And they'll count all of these things that they've done. Like, because I know for a fact where I come from, in Nyanga, right? There are multiple people, specifically politicians, who come from there. But then you look at them now, you look at the state that they are in now. One guy was at some point the mayor of Cape Town, or the Western Cape rather. And now I look at him now, he's so old, he drinks a lot, he does all of these things that you would not think a former mayor would do, right? And then at the same time, you go back to the youth. Yes, there's unemployment. Yes, some of them are not admitted into tertiary and all of these things. And then you also find those who have been admitted as kolweni. But what is the cause of you drinking so much? Will literally tell you it's boredom. And before we even get to the depression part of things, or the mental health, or anything, will tell you I'm bored because now all I'm doing the whole day is just watching time go by and all of these things. So I hear you, man. But now you said you got into student politics in the very first year you were at UWs. How do you go about as a first year? And I'm assuming at the time you don't know anyone from the institution or anything like that. How do you approach a party, if you did approach a party? How do you approach a party and say, Bana, I want to be a member of this particular party?
Okay. Well, I was fortunate enough in 2023. And again, I was not necessarily a first-year student in the tertiary sector.
Yeah.
I was a first year, particularly at the University of the Western Cape. So there's a residence called Unibel 1 residence. At the time, it had recently been opened. Were the first occupants of that residence. It was opened in 2023. So there was a meeting. The president at the time of the SRC. And the SRC actually were convening a meeting at Unibel for first years at the time, for Unibel residents. And of course, for a residence that was relatively new, I think it was around Feb, March, there were issues that we were not comfortable with. And as outspoken as I am, I raised those issues to the SRC president. I registered the issues with the SRC. Now, there were many of us at the time there, and I have this accent, and now I'm saying Amandla,
Mandla.
and now people, are moving with me, So afterwards, as soon as that meeting was adjourned, that mass meeting was adjourned, there's a chap called Adondlovu. We call him the chief lobbyist in the organization. Ado approached me, as well as I think the president at the time, and a chap called Katla Hosilowa, approached me to say, "Hey, chief, we're not leaving here. You're signing your membership form now." You see. Like, hey, but can I think about it at least? Say, hey, Chief, you're signing now. So I signed my membership form, and I won't lie, it was the EFFSC membership form.
Yeah.
I was immediately made to feel at home. I was welcomed warmly, and I found rather a very, very warm home in the EFF, in the EFFSC and the EFF. So I signed my EFFSC one, and then subsequently signed the Economic Freedom Fighters on the mother body form. Yeah. So I've been home since.
I've been home since. But now, I just want to ask, so when you signed the membership form, was it a thing of, Bana, you are required to volunteer in anything that they do? And if you did have to volunteer in activities that they were doing, did this in any way influence the way that you focused on your work? Did it have an impact on your marks, your schoolwork in general, or was it just vibes and you're cruising?
Look, the EFFSC, well, now EFFYC, so I'll just keep on saying EFFSC.
Yeah.
The EFFSC is a student political formation.
Yeah.
We understand the commitments, the academic commitments of our members. Our members are students, understand? So we don't force you when you sign to say you must fully commit yourself to the organization. But of course, it is rather anticipated of a member, to avail themselves from time to time, so long as it doesn't, of course, conflict with the core mandate of why you are here, which is your schoolwork. So, of course, the organization can't take more time from you than your academics, can't consume more time than your academics. And I mean, of course, our people are able to balance. There's a balance between your organizational commitments and your academic commitments. So I think I was able as well to strike that balance, even myself, between my political and academic commitments.
There's this stigma, right? Not just about the EFFSC, but about every party on campus, right? Not just UWC, but campuses in general, that students who are part of political parties or student councils or representatives, they tend to take, so let's say, for example, you're doing a 3-year degree, and then you find, Mana, you do it in a time span of 6 years because you want to stay an undergrad student because maybe there are benefits. And I'm not sure about this. And I'm saying it's a stigma because it's been something that's been going around, Bana. Abantu who are in these political parties grow old and they're still at school. Some never want to come out. Even if they are graduate for your undergrad, they come back for postgrad because they still want to stick to the political party because of there are supposedly benefits that come with being in these parties. And I just want to ask, how true is this?
Well, I wouldn't want to necessarily comment on something that has not been tested, regardless of your political formation. I mean, you get students who are not even politically affiliated but do not graduate in record time.
True.
So it can't be that now once you're a student leader, it's because you are so opportunistic, you are staying for the benefits. You are not coming from Tanzania to delay yourself academically because you are seeing that the benefits in the organization such that you would compromise yourself academically, So I mean, if you happen to be a student leader doing a 4-year program and you graduate after 7 years, it's got nothing to do with politics necessarily. It's got to do, with you. Are you fit academically? Is your course rocking you? Are you coping with your course? I don't think it's got anything to do with politics, unless of course you can't manage your time properly. Then you are, giving your political commitments more time than your academics. And then secondly, on the part of postgrads, but I think that is unfair, because when you graduate from undergrad, I mean, I think everyone is allowed to do honors, masters, your postgrad. So I don't think we should necessarily say it's because you are so married to the benefits that come with being in the organization. Anyways, I don't even know what those benefits are, because there's no benefit
That you know
in being a student leader. You are serving, you are volunteering. I don't think there are any benefits to it, because I understand, for instance, in the University of the Western Cape, you're not paid as an SRC member, for instance, if perhaps that is the benefit you might be referring to. You're not paid, you're volunteering. And I think that is such a perfect system.
Yeah.
Because we don't want student leaders
to running after
to
the money.
to be after the benefits. A leader doesn't need to be rewarded. And if there are now benefits, we will see a lot of pseudo-revolutionaries, bogus revolutionaries, people who masquerade as student leaders, mainly because they are after the benefits that come with being in the SRC. So the only benefit you get from the University of the Western Cape is the title, of being an SRC member, and perhaps a suit, and it ends there. So there's no benefit that I know of, perhaps, that comes with being a student leader.
So while we're on the topic of being a student leader, right? I suppose you are up to date with current affairs in universities and not just UWC. So, and I would be sure that you remember the whole incident of the student who peed, the Stellenbosch student who peed all over so the white student, yes, I would put it like that, because I can't remember his name. And his verdict came out yesterday, right? But he was innocent, or rather not guilty. How would you, so when you look at the verdict, how would you analyze it, and how would you suggest that whole case was, handled?
Well, thanks for that question, Lilo. Look, firstly, this took place at the University of Stellenbosch.
Yeah.
It's between, the perpetrator is white, the victim is black. Number 3, you look at how long it took for the verdict to come out. 3 years later.
Yeah.
Because the incident took place in 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
The verdict was only, announced yesterday in 2025. Now you look at, we have what you call the state. It's got 3 arms. We've got the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Now the judiciary, fundamentally being part of the 3 arms of the state, which ought to be as independent as the other 2 arms of the state.
Yeah.
Seemingly is continuing to succeed in its efforts to warrant us to undermine it even further and further. You look at how it is dealing with cases, man. There is overwhelming evidence of a student, regardless of race, of a student relieving himself on the desk of another student, on the gadgets of another student, on the stationery of another student.
There was a video, right?
There was a video.
Yeah, where he asked him, what are you doing?
The perpetrator was wearing a jacket, I think a brownish jacket or so. Was wearing a jacket. He's white. He's relieving himself, and according to the video, he appears intoxicated. That is enough evidence. That is, on what grounds do you acquit such a person of the charges? You say, no. We don't find you guilty. What about the dignity of the person, the dignity that has been stripped of that person? We don't focus on the race, but the dignity, because that person who's the victim is as equally protected by the Constitution as the perpetrator. Every citizen, according, there's what you call the rule of law, equality before the law. In court, the law of evidence applies. I'm not a law student, I may not know a lot, but there's a video which serves as evidence to show that this person is doing this. And now I ask myself the question, on what grounds do you find this person not guilty? Is it because his private part was not shown in the video to show that it is indeed attached to this person so that we can... really. Because on what grounds really do you find a person not guilty? You are seeing him on the video. He appears on the video. So you can see that there's reasonable grounds to suspect a third hand, in this case, really, because I don't understand. If it was myself, for instance, or any of my black brothers or sisters, this case would have long been concluded, even in 2022 or 2023. Hey, more especially if the victim was white.
Yeah.
Because that is the precedent, that is the tone that is being set by the judiciary to say, hey, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Is it because he's white? We must not forget our history. We must not, because this reminds me now of where we come from as a people of this country. As black people, white people, the dynamics of the past, when black people would be the only rights which mattered at the time were those of white people.
I don't mean to make it political, but like with what you said, that we need to remember our history. And I think what the country basically wants us to do is, as black people, they want us to, as much as we say, Bana, we're forgiven, they want us to forget. So in the sense of Bana, everything that happens now happens because democracy happened, so they don't refer back to how things were in la era apartheid. And they want to cover this whole, they want to put up this facade rather, Bana, we no longer have racist people or racist white people in South Africa. So I think it's very profound what you say, Mana. We also need to remember our history, right, as South Africans. But not to stay too long on that, I'd like to find out more about the course Oyenzayo, right? You're doing EPA. What are your majors?
Majoring in politics and English.
In politics and English. So because you're majoring in English as well, I just want to ask, and since you said, Bana, you still aspire to be a teacher, do you think, Bana, maybe somewhere along the lines of the PGC and then jump into teaching?
Well, I could do a PGC. It's one of my options. Another option of mine is just to further my studies, honors, masters, if God permits, PhD, So I mean, I'm yet to decide. I'm yet to decide, whether I even... But I think I'm likely to do PGCE, because also, as a person who comes from a humble background, as much as education is a very interesting concept, I can do PGCE, I can study while I'm working, because I also need to take care of my family back home. Yes.
But now, okay, I've covered the English part of things.
Those are the lived realities of black people.
True. So now, with politics, right? I want you to make me understand, because with EBA in other institutions, like for example, I think EUCT, Bachelor of Arts would be your music, drama, fine arts, and all of these things. And funny enough, in UWs, it's totally different, right? It's where you basically get a mixture of other faculties, I would say, because, I would say a mixture of other faculties. But now, with politics specifically, what is it that you do? And when you graduate and say you want to follow politics, where are you going career-wise? Are you going to be in parliament, as you'd spoken about parliament earlier? Are you going into politics as a political analysis, or what is it basically?
Well, with politics, a lot of people, for instance, who are in parliament, who are members of parliament, like I said, I don't think you study to become a politician. You study politics because you want to know more about, but you don't study to say, no, I'm going to parliament. It's not a prerequisite, because it's deployment, it's not employment. You are sent by your political party according to the number of seats they have, perhaps according to your aptitude as well politically, and your influence, of course, internal party dynamics and deployment and stuff like that. So I don't think you study. There's anyone who says, no, I'm studying so that I can be deployed to parliament. That's number one. Number two, you can venture into a lot of fields. You can be a political analyst, you can be a researcher, for instance. You can be working for a government department, because you find out, for instance, Bachelor of Administration, which focuses on government a lot. You know, there's for instance, political studies forms part of the modules that you take if you're doing B-admin. You know, so you don't necessarily study because you want to go to parliament. You know, it does not guarantee that you'll make it. It's not a prerequisite. There's no criteria academically that is so specific to say you must have studied politics in order to make it to parliament. I mean, there are uneducated people in parliament. You know, I just won't mention the party that likes to deploy such people, but there are uneducated people, really. You know, some only have matric, you know, I mean, the former statesman does not even, you know, so, but I wouldn't want to go into that.
I hear you. So, as a student at UW, now I'm just speaking as a student, because I'm sure a lot of students see you and then they feel like, well, okay, as you know, I've seen this person being radical, I would say, and confrontational and all of these other things that other people would rather call you. What are the most things that you would say when our students are dealing with in terms of, now, let alone academics, right? In terms of registration and debts and all of these things. So what is the one thing that you can say, Bana, is troubling students a lot?
Well, that revolves around academics. You see, the core business of the university is to educate. So I don't think you can necessarily, any structural problem that exists within the institution that affects students is bound to affect the academics. That's what I'm saying. Because the core business is education over and above everything. That's priority number one, you see. So, you know, the issues that students deal with, particularly black students, you know, I can't divorce black students from this. So I can't divorce race from this. Not saying other students are not suffering, but mostly it's us black students. You know, you look at, number one, the issue of affordability. You know, many students depend on NSFAS. Some of whom are not even eligible for NSFAS. Or if they're eligible, they're not even receiving their NSFAS allowances for one reason or the other. You know? So many students are despondent. You know, they depend on NSFAS. And I was watching some of your episodes. There was an episode whereby I think it was yourself saying that students have to, you know, send money back home from their NSFAS allowances. And I'm part of those students. I have to send money home. Those are the lived realities of us, black students. Not even at UWC per se, across the board, across the sector. You know, those are the lived realities of black students. And number two, you know, you get you get to take a look at the living conditions we're subjected to. For instance, the EFFYC just recently, we went on as part of our oversight project. We went to the private accommodations where our students are placed in Bela. There's a house where we found to have a toilet inside the kitchen.
Hi, man. Whoa. Whoa. Kitchen.
I can show you that.
We are cooking.
Yes.
And then there's a toilet.
There's a toilet. There's nothing that separates the toilet, that hides you. So as someone is cooking there, the other is sitting here. Yes.
No, man.
Now you get to question. It's not disgusting. It's inhumane. It's cruel. Because you get to question how such accommodations are even accredited by the university. Because they're supposed to be vetted, you know, by residential services. You get to ask yourself, these people came here, you know, they vetted if this property is in line with the standards of private accommodation providers that ought to be accredited by the university. How was this one particularly accredited? Our students are not, of course, you can't subject students to conditions you would not even subject your dog to. You know, students have no choice because they have no place to stay. They have to reside there. They have no choice Some are coming from the Eastern Cape, some are coming from Limpopo, some from Natal. They don't have families here. They have no choice but to accept that those living conditions. Yeah.
Yo.
You see, how was it accredited? How did even, the people in charge of student governance even allow that to happen? Because they are part of the people who ought to conduct oversight and so far as living conditions of students are concerned. So many students in private accommodations feel left out. They feel disregarded. They feel that no one cares about them. They feel that people only care about them when it's time for elections, when people go to campaign. You see? And that is not the truth. The people responsible for oversight. I mean, we can only do so much as people who are not in student governance. I'm not even speaking about the EFFSC alone. Other parties as well. You've got your PASMA, you've got MK, you've got, So really, there is only so much people. The only people who can facilitate change are the people at the helm of student governance. You see? Those are the only people who can do that. But it is so unfortunate that for the very first time in this university, there's an accommodation that was accredited where students are actually residing. An accommodation that has a toilet inside of a kitchen. That angers me. And once you go to that accommodation, you'll never find a white student. You'll never find a colored student. You see black students.
Man.
That is an insult.
It goes back to Landowiteta of students or the youth, basically, who come from the township, who just want to leave the township. And when they'll take anything that is given to them just so that they come out of the township. And oh man, I didn't know about this. And it's so confusing because I was listening to the DVC speak earlier
DVC
this year.
again?
The current one.
For SDS.
What's her name?
Prof. Matete Madiba?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I was listening to her earlier this year when she was speaking about the fact that a lot of private accommodations were taken out of the accredited list of where students can actually reside. And then you tell me, Bana, there's actually an accommodation whereby there's a toilet in a kitchen. So I just want to, lastly rather, I want to ask you about how you feel about the videos, because you're very popular on social media in terms of there are videos of you going around being radical, being this loud person and always just fighting. Because I was introduced to you as someone who's always fighting, right? So there was, the protest, right? There was that. There was you speaking to the DVC. There was the video of you and Uzak. And then the latest one, which is the most famous one, the video of you at the student assembly, right? So I'm not sure if you'd like to explain these videos or just give us a summary of how they make you feel, because you are always portrayed in a way, you're always portrayed as someone who's always fighting in all of these videos because of how loud you are. And because I've noticed that when you speak, you use your hands a lot. So people would, because a lot of people, when they say, in order for you to show someone that you're not fighting with them, stop using your hands, right? And then the moment you use your hands, they think you're fighting. So how would you say that makes you feel in general?
Firstly, let me start on the note of the videos. Well, it so happened that they are on social media. We have a marketing, not necessarily marketing, we have a media team in the organization that, I'm not the only person who's recorded during these things. You take a look at our social media pages, you find out that our media team covers everything and everyone when they speak. That's number one. So I wouldn't necessarily have a reason for why perhaps mine would be popular. I don't know. Perhaps it's the algorithm of social media. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm not even that well informed about these things of technology and the media. To how I speak and what have you, well, unfortunately, you can't change what people think about you. True. You can't change how people think about you. Some will like you, some will not like you. That's the science of life. You know, some will like how you operate, some will not like how you operate. But I think what is important is staying true to what you know. You know, and defending the truth at whatever cost.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand what would be so different if I were to use my hands less. Because I would still say the same thing.
Yes, true.
I wouldn't change what I'm saying, you know. So now why must I change my approach? You know, you are still able to hear what I'm saying. You know, the university continues to subject us to unfair living conditions in residences. Our students are living in squalor. You look at, for instance, the Unibel residence. You know, it's portrayed as a 5-star residence, but it goes on for weeks without water. Goes on for weeks without water, without hot water, or without water at all. Just recently, there was no water for about over 2 or 3 weeks. You see, when we complain about those things, we're made to appear as hooligans because the only language they understand is when we take to the streets. They portray us as hooligans. Number 2 is these things of you know, finding toilets in kitchens. You know, those things are, no one talks about those things. You know, no one talks about the living conditions we're subjected to. Number 3, no one talks about the poverty that is experienced by students within the parameters of this university. You know, the Department of Student Development and Support, led by Professor Madiba, runs a food program to you know, what's this thing? To support students who are not funded by NSFAS. But how many students does that support? How many students do actually know about that program? You know, when we send students there, we give them the links. They're told that, no, we have run out of food. What is the SRC doing even to assist that problem? For instance, we've seen that the SRC is running what you call a meal a day program to support students. But now my question is, but now really there's a lot of questions even around that. Because now a fund, the Ecam Valetu fund, is being used. You know, the SRC appealed to the student populace to donate, you know, as little as 50 rands to the fund. I never told that it would feed people. It's not a bad thing that is feeding people, but when the SRC is running the Meal a Day program, it takes out of its own budget. It does not take from the Ecam Valetu fund. The Ecam Valetu fund is supposed to make sure that it clears students' historical debts so that they can actually graduate, because you can't graduate if you are still owing the university. There are people who are struggling to find jobs. There are people who are struggling to graduate who cannot even get their graduation certificates because they owe the university. That money is supposed to be used for that. And also the very same SRC is asking students who rely on NSFAS to take out of the little that NSFAS gives them to support the fund so that the money can still even, you know, feed them. It defeats logic. Yeah. There's no transparency insofar as how even the funds are spent. You know, there's no transparency insofar as what is happening to the SRC budget, why it is not being used to finance this military program. So come to really sum this thing up, you know, of the videos and what have you. Unfortunately, I don't know if perhaps now I must change how I speak to suit a certain group of people. Yeah. And what about the certain group of people that is comfortable with how I speak? So I can't really live up to the expectations of everyone, really. Yeah, you know, true. Yeah, as long as the truth is being, you know, the message that carries the truth is being conveyed. You know, I think that is what is important. You know, because people will just never be entirely satisfied. Yeah, that's one thing we need to understand. You can't live up to the expectations of everyone out there.
I hear you, man. And so one last question, right, before we go. You are where you are right now. You are doing your 3rd year. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? And this is not just academically, and I mean in general, like in life. Are you going to continue standing up for what is right for the people? Or are you going to go and pursue a career that you feel like might go hand in hand with what you believe in? What is it that you foresee for yourself in the next 5 years? Or even not even to stretch it that far, in the next 3 years even? Yeah.
In the next 3 years, I'm likely to still be in school, furthering my studies, you know, and to answer the question of whether or not I'll still be fighting for what is right. This thing is not conditional. It does not It does not say if you are in school, you must continue to fight, and then if you're not at all school, you must. No. I fought way before I was even in school. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not dependent on certain conditions. As I'm saying, it's not conditional. You know, I mean, it's a fundamental part of who I am to defend the truth. You know, and the truth is that we are not free until we attain economic freedom in our lifetime.
Hey. I'd like to thank you, Manbutba, for honoring the invite. I really appreciate it. And I thank you for sharing a part of yourself with us, right? Because I know this politics is not who you are entirely, but it makes up who you are. And I thank you for sharing that part of yourself with us. So you've heard it from our very own Solim Dingi that fighting for what you believe in is not a crime. And I'd like to thank you guys for tuning into this episode. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification button for more episodes. Thank you. Bye.